what I got in the mail. This is kind of the final leg of the 24 valve mechanical / what I'd like to get done in a scheduled fashion kind of things to do to this truck. If you've been watching this series now, you know I've got the seat covers all done, the wheels and tires are done, the killer dowel pin or KDP, the 5th gear fix, and I think that's it, right? So gauges are where I wanted to go. And this is what we have. This is what I decided on. Quite honestly, I looked around quite a bit. Different makers of gauges. Price point, of course, was a priority. It wasn't my #1 priority, but it was a priority. I like looking at needles. I don't like looking at digital displays necessarily. I don't plan on putting a tuner on this thing anytime soon. Those are $1,100–1,200 bucks that I really don't want to spend right now on this truck. I got this whole package here for about $250 directly from GlowShift. I went right to GlowShift. That was the best pricing I could find on the interweb through all the various distributors and eBay and Amazon or whatnot. GlowShift direct, and they had a coupon code, of course. You know, I'm going to search that stuff out. So we're looking at about 250 bucks worth of stuff here, and I'll show you what I've got. Yeah, I know, I'm cutting towards my body. Get over it. Oh. So, kind of in order of importance, at least what I think important is #1. 30 psi fuel pressure sensor. A lot of people have given me the recommendation to get a lift pump or a, you know, one of those fast systems, those dog systems, whatever. Those are expensive too, $700–800 bucks for that. And I may get one of those eventually, but quite honestly, this truck is completely stock, bone stock. I'm not putting, as I mentioned, a tuner on this thing. I really don't see much reason for me to have to be able to maintain big fat injectors or a bigger turbo or anything like that. This to me is the best early warning system. I'm a gauge watcher when I drive anyway. This will let me know if I'm having problems. #2 in order of importance is going to be an exhaust gas temperature gauge, an EGT gauge. So this was just kind of a no-brainer, and EGT in my mind is pretty important, just to be able to see where you are with that engine depending on what you're doing with the truck. And having that port already drilled is going to save me time and effort, so that's pretty cool. And then last but not least, to round out the triple gauge pod cluster thing that I got is this one. It's a boost gauge. 0 to 30 psi, or is it 25? No, 35. Oh, excuse me, a 35 psi boost gauge. This is kind of, I just got this to fill a hole, quite honestly. I already have in-dash gauges that seem to work quite well. Water temperature, oil pressure, voltage. Those I don't have any desire or reason, in my opinion, to duplicate that on a pod cluster. So the next best thing, I guess, would be a boost gauge. Even though I have a stock turbo on here, I don't have an adjustable boost elbow, which I may or may not put on there. I don't really want to mess with too much because it works so well as it's currently set up. So, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But this will be kind of fun to watch how the boost goes to keep me in a good economical range or a good power range. I'll figure all those numbers out and get an idea as I pay attention more and more to it. So we've got those 3 gauges. We have the tan. This is the 8-post or the 8-pillar plastic in matching color to my existing interior. It has the deluxe speaker for the speaker for the deluxe sound system, and then we'll drop the 3 gauges in on that. That's pretty cool. This is the boost adapter bolt. Okay, that takes place of an existing bolt. I drop this in. It's got a little chingus on the bottom here that drills a hole and allows me to check boost off of that. That's to me that was an easy purchase. And I should have a snubber. Here we go. A banjo bolt adapter, which is wait a minute, that's not right. Excuse me, this is the banjo bolt adapter. My bad. To replace a stock banjo bolt to put a sensor into. And then this, to me, was the kind of important too, is this fuel pressure snubber. A lot of the forums I went on to and a lot of the reading I did and talking to Wayne and people that I talked to, well, Wayne's the one that I talked to from the diesel stop because he knows these engines. You get a pressure spike when you turn the key on. Could be 20 psi, could be a little more than that depending on your system. But it basically hammers the back of the sender, and you can have premature failure because that thing just hammers it. I think this gauge was like 16 bucks, or this snubber, excuse me, was about 16 bucks. Oh, and I even get fancy stickers. All right, let's get things opened up here, and let's see how this goes. I will tell you, just for fun, I did read through the installation guide, and it seems quite thorough, and it seems to be pretty well written. I mean, I pretty much understand the concepts. I probably could have installed this just fine without, but man, can't beat pictures, right? And the wording and everything is, yeah, it's pretty easy to understand. This makes me laugh. For a transmission temp gauge, if you have an automatic transmission, look at how much silicone is just oozing out of that pan. Ugh. That would make Wayne from the diesel stop cringe. That's funny. Ay, ay, ay. I think the only real dirty part here is going to be the fuel pressure gauge when I replace that banger bolt, because I got to drain the filter, or the filter will drain itself. But let's start pulling some trim off this thing and see. Okay, so this is just kind of set up there. The true A-pillar plastic is there. I haven't mounted anything yet. I'm just trying to get an idea of how this is all going to look and how I'm going to clock these gauges. I sit pretty tall in this seat because I'm a pretty tall guy. My eye level is just below, my normal driving eye level is just below the rear view mirror. So this is how I chose the order of gauge positioning here. I put the fuel pressure gauge first because to me that's the most important one for me to watch on a regular basis, is the fuel pressure. I'm trying to get the clock position correct. Boy, these are really snug in there, which is good. I like things nice and snug like that because then they don't tend to squeak. But basically, my driving horizon is right about here, so my eyes are going to naturally go right to the fuel pressure gauge. As I talked about earlier in this video, to me that's most important, because a failing fuel pressure gauge, failing fuel pressure as indicated on the fuel pressure gauge needs to be addressed immediately, and that's anytime during driving operation. This could fail, so this needs to be looked at. So it's right. And if you've ever driven with me, my eyes, whether I'm driving for an hour or I'm driving for 6 hours, my eyes are everywhere. Side view, rear view, gauges. I'm a very defensive driver. So yeah, the middle one I went with the exhaust gas temperature. That really would, in my opinion, be an issue if I'm pulling hills, going to the ranch, if I've got a big heavy load and I'm putting some work on this engine. That's not a constant need to monitor that, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but so that's kind of a little bit below. That's less to be looked at. And last but not least is the boost gauge, which is a nice to have, in my opinion, not a need to have. But I didn't like the look of the double gauges, so I figure if I'm going two is good, 3 is better. And the boost gauge that's kind of a funsy. That'll be when I'm pulling hills or pulling loads, I can kind of see where I'm at boost wise, and I guess that would also let me know if I've got something failing in the turbo. For some reason, what I consider to be a normal boost for a normal or a knowable driving condition is higher or lower than I can stem off any problems, potentially, I'm guessing. But fuel pressure gauge to me is most important, and I like it. I really like them because they're nice and small, and they don't really, I'm putting you right alongside my head, see? And that, see, that doesn't seem to offend me too much. Back in the old days when I used to do a lot of street racing and track racing, I would set my gauges up to where a normal position for the needle would be at 12 o'clock, regardless of whatever the gauge was gauging or monitoring. When I was in the normal range, that needle needed to be number 12, because at number 12, because in that way a quick glance would let me know, bam, all the needles are at 12, so it's good. And then with a quick glance, if I saw one that was on either side of 12 o'clock, I could take a second look. I'm not doing that on this. I think I don't really need the need of that, because I'm not doing any high-speed driving. I'm not doing anything that requires that degree of performance, I think. I don't know. This is just a truck, man. I'm just looking for a good highway hauler. Yeah, so anyhow, we're going to keep it so all the neutral needles are at 6 o'clock, and then I'll just get used to the pin position as normal operating temperatures and boost conditions and stuff. So right now we're looking at the back side of the direct fit aftermarket part. I think there's a reason why these gauges are so tight in here. And I understand these are universal kits. I absolutely understand that. And this is not anything bad. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just making an observation. They come with these brackets, and typically what you do is you'd run the bracket on the back side. There's a nut and bolt that grab a hold of the two posts that come out from the back of the gauges. In this case, I'm not going to use them because they simply don't fit. So I'm sure they planned on it, but if you are installing this and these don't fit, I'm guessing don't worry about it, because these are really tight in here. There's no pressure on them or anything, so I don't suspect they're going to move. I don't think they're going to squeak, but like here, I can't get that to get in there, and I don't want to force it because I just don't think it's that important. So these brackets are all going to get put right back in the box. Instructions are really straightforward, so we'll see how we do here in just a minute. I have no reason to believe that this depth is any different. Yeah, that's good enough. That will be in the flow of things. We have thread, anti-seize thread compound on there. We're going to tighten this up. Where is my metric wrench? Remember, cross thread's as good as a lock nut. Okay, once you've got the bottom threaded part in there nice and snug, you tighten down this top little crush nut here, and your probe is at the proper depth, and then that'll seal it off. I just gently did a little, make sure it's tight. I don't want to break it. Okay, let's keep on keeping on. That's close enough. It's got a little wiggle. Oh, that's a good one. We gonna pee? Oh, did you hear the air? Hopefully we can get it started when all's said and done. Alright, we're gonna pull out the OEM banger, and I will be certain to remove, I love the smell of diesel. We'll be certain to move both of these washers. There's one, and the other one's underneath this fitting. Oops, that came out awful easy. And we make sure we get that one out as well. So then we will take our handy dandy supplied doodad here, remove the thread protector. I'm going to keep this little Chinggis cup in here now so I don't get garbage in there. Slide that in. Slide that in. Drop that on. That's good. Tighten it till you crack the housing, then you back it off a quarter turn. That's my torque spec. That's good. It's gonna crack. All right, next is the installation of the snubber. And last but not least, the actual fuel sender. This one's interesting because it has thread compound on it. I did not put thread compound on either of these, but this isn't brass, this is zinc or something, so it probably won't mate up as pretty as, I didn't check to see what that socket is, but it's going to be a deep socket regardless. Well, that's a deep one. That's what she said. Okay, let me find a wrench that fits that. Now for the boost gauge, you take a 10mm, you pull out the front bolt. This is the heater grid for the intake. Pull that out and you replace that with this adapter, and they do recommend that you use Teflon tape on the threads. So we'll try this one out. They use thread lock on that, or yeah, they use some kind of, that's red RTV. Remember, this heater grid was replaced when it failed. Let's pop this one in there and see what we can get. Let's probably get a socket. It said use a 16 mil. Let me see if I have a socket for this. Alright, so that's nice and snug. Yeah, let's go get the tube that hooks up to that. Okay, here's what I find curious. Here's the hard line that you run for your boost gauge. Here's a little bag of hardware for all your compression fittings and your little sleeves and everything to make this connect to that adapter I just put into the intake, the base of the heater grid, and then one of these goes to the back of the gauge. It's not important what that is right now, but you have 3 different size wrenches to do all this. Okay, you've got this one, you got these little guys, and then you have this little guy right here. Here's what I find curious. I'm not complaining, I'm just explaining something. This is a 3/8 wrench. This is SAE. That's exactly the right size. Okay? Exactly the right size. A metric does not fit on that. Okay, so that one is 3/8. And then we grab an 11 mil. This one is 11mm. Okay, the 11 mil fits perfect. SAE does not fit. And last but not least, the biggest one is a 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch, not metric. So it's weird. No, that's not a complaint. I'm not talking trash. It's just interesting. You've got metric and then 2 SAE. So it is what it is today and what it's going to be tomorrow. So we're going to slide that on like that. Slide that on like that, and then I need to figure out which one goes. This one probably goes, where's the gauge? The gauge has a male. Yeah, this one goes to the gauge. This one goes to the engine compartment. Okay, we'll get that good and snug. We'll throw that on there and we'll be good. So that's how we got everything cleaned up. EGT runs back behind there. It's zip tied to the main loom that runs underneath there. The boost line runs across the dip stick engine oil tube, and the fuel pressure is right there. So up under the dash, this is what we're looking at, right there, that grommet. Let's see if I can get you in there, where that silver line's coming through. This braided silver line is the EGT sending unit, and then this big little fat guy there is for the hood release. But everything fit through that grommet quite nicely. I did slice it on the top, I don't know if you can see, and I had to trim out a little bit of the inside of the grommet to get it around all those wires. But I will come back with some clear silicone and squeeze it in there so we don't create any water leaks. But now at this point we're going to take these 3 cables, run them up through here to get them up on top of the dash. That seems pretty straightforward. And then it's just a matter of finding my power leads. All 3 of these, I had to pop that up for a second. All 3 of these are pretty straightforward. Got a ground, you've got hot all the time, you have switched 12 volts, and you've got the headlight, what goes to a dash cluster light or a headlight, so it'll dim it when you turn the headlights on. So we're going to keep going, making this neat and clean, and we'll be back in a moment. Well, it wasn't horrible. The sensor leads for the EGT, the boost, and the fuel pressure sensor I ran up through the bottom of the dash. That damn hose for the booster is really giving me nothing but grief. And you see they come up through here. Everything's tucked up out of the way, not in the way of any pedals or any problems there. So I grabbed some wire to make a harness, yellow, red, black, and orange. I don't have any orange in 18 gauge. All my orange is 12 gauge. As it is, this is 14. Probably way overkill, red and black, but the which is fine. I don't mind a little heavier wire for the constant 12 volts, the switch 12 volts, and the ground. But then the sensor for the headlight switch, I didn't want to run a heavy gauge orange, so I ran white. It's fine. It'll be fine. Alright, so I did cut it long, because you just never know. I taped about 18 inches, because I figure if it's around here, it'll give me a good stub out there, and then I could make my connections in the A-pillar and not bury the tie-in on how I tie this into the OEM harnesses. I mean, look at these wires, are like 22 gauge, probably 22. So this is way overkill, but it is what it is. It's what I had, so I'll do that. I'll cut off the extras, and I'll be back. Okay, so when looking at the fuse box of this 99 Dodge, the ground is going to be easy. I'll just go underneath here somewhere, put an eye loop, find a screw, and screw it to a good clean piece of steel. We need hot all the time. If I really want to get fun, this is a space for, I don't know, some feature that I don't have to plug a relay in here. This is 12 volts right here. That's hot all the time, this top pin. So for the constant 12 volts, that's what I'm going to tie into. For the switch lead, I've got fuse taps that I can come into these fuse blocks here. I'm going to come into the 10 amp fuse that's for the radio, because that turns on and off with a key. Okay, so we have a ground. There's a bolt, which is a ground post, right on the other side of this weather stripping, and there's about 8 or 9 OEM wires run to this bolt. So I just put an eye loop on the end of this black ground lead, undid an 8mm bolt, slid that on there. I think that's a pretty good ground. Yellow is hot all the time. I got my little deal plugged into there. That's hot all the time. This is going to be my switch lead, and the white, of course, will be my substitute as my orange. I did pull the dash off, and I'm going to pull the headlight switch out, and we will tap into that one. Alright, because I don't like surprises, before I put this headlight switch back, I want to make sure we're all good with our connections. The yellow should be a constant 12 volt, which it is. Why do I have voltage? Oh, alright, well, switched headlamp source. You know, it doesn't say. All it says is to hook it up to the green. The green loses, this green loses power. I should have probably put the correct connection on there, but the green actually loses power when you turn the headlights on. See if I can do this with one hand. There we go. Turn the headlights on, and it goes off. So maybe that's the dimmer. Oh, it seems backwards, but what do I know? Alright, now I just need to find a switch power source, and we can put this truck all back together and see how we do. For the switched power lead, I'm grabbing the 10 amp blower motor fuse, or circuit I should say, up here, the fuse. I'm using what's called a fuse adapter for these ATO blade fuses. Slide it in that way, snaps over the top, and this will fit right back into the stock slot, and then I can put a blade, female blade connector slide over that. What you do need to determine is which side is your power in, which side is your power out. In this instance, the bottom leg is the power in, the top is your fuse lead, so you want to make sure you're on the fused side of the circuit. So we'll plug this in, and I'll show you how this goes in just a minute, because you guys are in my way. Okay, you're in my way. Come on. Go sit in the corner with Cleo. So that's how that fuse tap plays out there with the red wire. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And we are going to call this... Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, man. I got to bump it a little bit that way. That's fine. It's bendy like that. Stupid kids. Okay, cool. I hooked this thing up how you're supposed to, and when you turn the headlights on, it actually brightens up. It's backwards. They say hook it up to the green wire from the back of the headlight switch. To me, it should dim at night. It shouldn't brighten. The green had 12 volts all the time, and the 12 volts shut off when you put the headlights on. So that's backwards. That's dumb. So now I got to take the dash apart again, take that trigger and put it somewhere else. Put it back, put it on that fuse that I first talked about. Stupid. So it's quite a bit later. I like the way they look. They're not obstructing my field of view. Let me shut the door here. I just went inside and ate dinner because I was frustrated. I just spent an hour, at least an hour, on the phone with Wayne at the diesel stop trying to figure out. I got a fuel issue now. Yeah, those are cool though. That's reading 30 because I have it unplugged. So the EGT works perfect. The boost gauge works perfect. The fuel pressure gauge was not working. And I sat there and I dilly-dallied around with it. I thought maybe the sensor was bad. I thought maybe I had done something wiring wrong. But so I unscrewed the fuel pressure sensor and I blew 25 pounds worth of air in it, and this needle went right to 25. And then I reduced the regulator on my main compressor down to about 15 psi, and I took a blowgun, I put it at the base of the sensor, and it read exactly the air pressure I was putting in there. So the sending unit works, the wiring works, the gauge works. But on that housing where I mounted that sensor, I was not getting any pressure out of there. So I called Wayne and I said, dude, what's going on? And we messed around with it, boy. Well, first of all, it turns out that's and see, I don't know, I'm diesel dumb. I'm the first guy to admit that this is my first passenger car diesel rig that I've ever owned. I've played around with tractors before over the years, getting those guys working, but this Cummins is way different. I've never had a Cummins before. I've never played with it, never messed with it. And the reason why I appear to not be getting any pressure out of that banjo bolt is because he feels that my fuel filter is seriously screwed up, clogged, something. So it was late, it was dark, I was hungry, I hadn't eaten for like 13 hours, and I'm not even exaggerating. I had breakfast at like 6:30 this morning, and so I was a little grumpy and I was pissed. I'm like, this thing's not working. So tomorrow's a new day. I'm going to run over to Napa and get a new fuel filter, change the fuel filter out and see what happens. Now, another thing that's wrong here, I followed the instructions to a T. You guys saw that I did everything according to how these instructions. They said to hook the auto dim feature to the solid green wire out of the back of the headlight switch. Well, when I tested it, the solid green wire out of the back of the headlight switch had 12 volts all the time, and when you turn the headlights on, it dropped the 12 volts. But look what happens. This would be normal driving. I turn the headlights on, they get brighter, right? They should not be getting brighter. They should be getting dimmer. So I'm going to pull this, the dash has got to come apart. I got to pull the headlight switch out again. I got to yank that T-tap out of there and put it on a lead that shows 0 volts while driving. So this thing will be bright, and then when I turn the headlights on, it needs to go to 12 volts so it'll dim down. That's too bright. I mean, it's not horrible by comparison. I like my gauges bright. I don't like them really dim. But yeah, that's awesome. There's supposed to be a 30% dim when the headlights are on, and they're not doing that. They're getting brighter. So that's kind of my only gripe at this point. I can't gripe about the fuel pressure gauge not working because I feel that's and if I didn't mention already, that's a 12 valve oil filter housing. You guys that know Cummins engines are probably already pounding away at the keyboard saying, dude, that's not a 99. That's not a 24 valve. That's not the proper fuel pump, or excuse me, the fuel filter. Yeah, I know that now. I took a picture of it and I sent it over to Wayne and he's like, oh, you got screwed. He says they were depleting the inventory from the 98 12 valves and they put a 98 fuel filter housing on a 99 24 valve engine. And it's just something to be aware of. Now when I go to Napa tomorrow, I have to order a 98 fuel filter, not a 99, because I looked on their website, on the old inner pipe there, interweb pipe, and the 99 doesn't even show the proper fuel filter. That's awesome. So I'm hoping tomorrow, and that'll be another video. I'm going to change the fuel filter tomorrow morning. It'll be another video. Hopefully, like I said, this is pegged at 30 because I've got it unplugged right now. So we'll see what we can see tomorrow. I don't know. Good old GlowShift. But this is kind of fun. Goes from blue to green to purple to a pale. I kind of like that one. Yeah, that's not bad. Oh, to that. That would make me crazy. Oh, I can't do that. I'll go back to blue. Okay, that's the dark blue. Anywho, that's too bright. That's even brighter. All right. Stay tuned for the follow-up video. We'll see what happens. It is what it is. It's what it is today. Same thing it'll be tomorrow. But hopefully it'll be fixed tomorrow. Wait for that video. It'll be there. Gotta go. Gotta run. See ya.